right, guys, we are back with one of my favorite individuals of all time. You may know him as Lucifer from Supernatural or Jacob from Lost, now in American Rust, and then also from 13 Reasons Why. Mr. Mark Pellegrino, what's going on? And thank you for joining me at Springfield Comic Con 2022.
Yay!
Yay!
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, maybe next year, like we talked about backstage. Maybe next year we could get you to come in and actually do the convention.
I would love that. Thank you.
I think what happened with this convention, and even the reason they reached out to me was because it got delayed due to the pandemic.
Mm.
So some of the talent and vendors ended up having to drop out.
Mm.
So it was supposed to be a 2-day thing. Now it's only a 1-day. So I think this is a great way to incorporate other guests. So thank you so much for joining me. Today we'll be talking a little bit about two of your roles. Supernatural is widely considered one of the biggest, if not the biggest, scripted drama that ran on television. You played a huge role in that show in the sense of being the villain that the show worked up to. And a lot of people don't know that the series was supposed to end after you and your arc.
Yeah, the series had a 5-season arc, and Lucifer was supposed to bring on the apocalypse, and kabang! That was going to be the finale of the show. But the wonderful thing about I think the sci-fi horror genre is how heavily the fans can impact storytelling and narrative, right? And so I think the fans wanted more, and CW and Warner Brothers stepped up to the plate and gave them 10 more seasons.
so many more seasons, it wasn't even funny. Like,
yeah. I think it has. It's on record that Supernatural is probably the most popular sci-fi horror show on the CW.
Yes, on the CW. But even fans of the show and non-fans of the show can agree that the fan base of Supernatural is unlike any other. It's like one collective mind of just love. Because you got the Star Wars fandom, you got the Marvel fandom, you got the DC fandom, but there's factions. The Supernatural fandom is all one.
Okay.
They are one loving community. So
I could be the contrarian in the room here if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, please be the contrarian.
I think for sure the vast majority of the Supernatural fandom is about love, but there are factions. There's ship factions within the community that are very passionate. Like any group of people or any family, there's hierarchies of power that develop within them, and some of these are not so benevolent, and a great deal are. I think our community is unique in that we do bond together as a cast and as a fan base, and we do things for charity on a pretty wide scale. I think Misha Collins sort of had sort of initiated that in the community, and then Jared and Jensen followed suit, and I did too. And we certainly have a more cohesive bond than other fan bases, but the passions and the differences are very much there. I happen to be a lightning rod for some of those passions and differences, just because I'm so outspoken. And
you are, yes. You are.
I keep telling myself to shut up, but I can't. I think we live in a day and age where you have to speak your truth, and you have to speak truth to power. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but there are groups of people that are emboldened by the violence they can commit against others on social media. So I think you have to stand up to them and not cow, and that makes me a lightning rod for a lot of controversy within the fandom. But I embrace it, man. I'm Lucifer. Yes. the light bringer, the redheaded stepchild of Supernatural, and so be it.
It's literally, now that I didn't even think about it that way until now, but just now that you just said that, he is Lucifer. he's supposed to do this. Like it fits it fits your character so well to be the one that would que- to stand up against what society considers norm, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah,
I love that.
Lucifer was the first rebel against arbitrary authority. He was
Exactly.
he was the supernatural Prometheus, right? And so
Yes.
he should stand up and take the heat just like Lucifer did.
Yes, I love that. Oh my god, I'm gonna use. I can't wait to clip that soundbite just and use that alone. That's it. But can you tell us about a defining moment? So something like, maybe a moment about how you approached acting, um, and how your style changed through the years. So maybe a moment where, you know, the way you went about things changed, right? And how you did how your style has adapted over the years. That was
Yeah,
such a
I get it.
bad
I get the
thing.
formulation. I don't
Yeah,
know that I can distill it down to one moment, because changes occur with humans over time, right? And it's an accumulation of moments that makes you change. And it's like suddenly you realize you're not doing the same things that you were before. You're a little bit different, and you have to really sort of go backwards and reassemble the parts of history to figure out what exactly happened. But I would say that early on, I learned a technique, an approach to acting called the Meisner technique, which I think is a pristine approach to acting. It's brilliant. Some people who are going to be watching this have actually sat in on my classes and watched them and see my approach to acting. I think when you're young, you forget that the technique is a tool that is supposed to help you realize the truth, and it becomes an end unto itself as opposed to a means to getting somewhere.
right.
And when you're young, you wear your technique on your sleeve. You try too hard. I think Paul Newman even said that. Paul Newman was asked when he looks back at his early work, what does he see? He says, "I see an actor trying too hard." And he's a legendary actor
Mhm.
who has much to teach us in everything that he's done, even his early work that he would probably look at and say he was working too hard. So yeah, I think it's about the becoming more Bruce Lee-ish, right? You become less about the style and more about what needs to be done.
Right.
And so I adapt. My technique becomes the no technique of just knowing what I'm doing, how I feel about it, and then letting things play out improvisationally from there.
Right. Right. I think that's a beautiful answer. And I didn't even know that you did classes.
Yeah, I taught for I don't know 16 years at Playhouse West in the Valley in Studio City. I think it's one of the best acting schools in the country, but definitely on the West Coast. And now my wife has started a school in Paris called. Wait, I don't want to confuse it with another school there, so I have to remember. It's Playhouse Paris, and all of our students are working. So what we're doing over there is pretty great. So I go over there, for a month, 2 months, and I help her teach. I work with the students. I get up on stage with them. I do scenes with them. I do exercises. I play this
Oh
thing
my
called
God, that's
repetition with them.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I figure, most teachers don't do that, and I think they get to see, an image is worth a thousand words, right? And when they see somebody up there practicing the technique the way it should be, not to toot my own horn, but then they can mimic that immediately. They can avoid a lot of problems and pitfalls that you'll have growing into something, right? As a young
Right.
person, taking things too literally or trying too hard, and they can see the end, and that helps them, I
Yeah.
think, in the middle part. So they're all working. I mean, all these students are working. Meisner is a boom in Paris, in France. I think they need that approach to work, and it's going to be a very successful enterprise for my wife. So I'm proud of her.
Right. That's a no, that's amazing. Um, I would love to go there. Um, so your version of Lucifer is what I would consider the golden standard for anything that comes after, right? So anything that comes after, you're the golden standard of Lucifer, right? How
Thank
did
you.
you how did you approach getting into the head of that entity most commonly associated with pure evil?
Yeah, well, the writers do a lot of work for you, so
Right,
you
yeah,
just
yeah,
have to do sort of what the writers suggest. But I think one of the keys to playing any villain is to not think of the villain as the villain, but to think of them as somebody who believes in what they're fighting for and is right in what they're fighting for. And with Lucifer, I don't think I have to probe the depths too much to find that. In From my perspective, he's definitely the most maligned character in history, but also the most undeserving of that reputation, because of the things that he's guilty for, disobeying God, which in my mind is not not going along with arbitrary authority, which I think is a virtue. He's responsible, according to biblical text, for the fall of mankind from grace. So they went from one state to a fallen state, and that in turn is responsible for the way the world is today and the way human beings have to get values in the world today, all of which I think are actually good. Lucifer gave
yep,
us our moral sense. We knew the difference between right and wrong because of Lucifer. And that changed the world from one where you get values spontaneously to one where you have to work for them. But productive work, I think is a great deal of the meaning of human life. And so as far as I'm concerned, Lucifer gave us moral sense and meaning. He rebelled against arbitrary authority, and he fought for those virtues against all odds, um, and faced a deep historical maligning for his effort, and that requires a giant of a being. So I just faced him as a guy who had a real issue of justice that he was pursuing. And the fortunate thing about Supernatural is it's not, yeah, the monsters are supernatural, and the universe is big, and it incorporates God and angels and all these celestial beings. But in the end, it's really a family squabble, right? It's about family dynamics, loyalty, love, brotherhood, things that I think we can all identify with. So I don't have to imagine what it's like to be this ethereal being people know as Lucifer. I just have to imagine what it's like to be a son who's been rejected by his father, a brother who's been rejected by his family, and who lives of, outside the community that he would like to be inside of. And I think a lot of us, especially fans of Supernatural, understand what that's like. I mean, I went to high school. I know what it's like to be on the outside. I know what it's like to be the one that's not popular, and
yeah,
wanting very
yeah,
badly to be
yeah.
in there, but at the same time feeling a sense of injustice at being rejected for no good reason. I think we all can understand that, and I think those are the values that people relate to when they see Lucifer.
Right. And the whole the largest theme in Supernatural was family. Um, Correlation between, Sam and Dean and Michael and Lucifer, and then, John Winchester and God, right? Those parallels were just they were so beautifully done, and you know I can't. This show, I don't know if I've ever said it, but this show was with me at my lowest points. This show is with me at some of my worst moments. And I'd come home and sit and be able to watch Supernatural and see you and Jensen and Jared and Misha and feel normal for a while, like, yeah, and get lost in this. So I don't know if you guys know just what you created, because you didn't just create a show. You created, just this thing that I can't explain. Like, it's not just a TV show. It's more for me, and for a lot of us. So I mean, one question I've always wanted: do you think that Lucifer is still alive in the supernatural world? Do you think that he
Yeah,
somehow, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You can't kill Lucifer. He's an eternal being. He doesn't have that option that we have of dying. So
yeah, yeah?
I think he's still around.
All right. He's still out there. He's just he over the whatever 10 years because yeah, season 4 or 5. Yeah. So over the 10 years of messing with the Winchesters, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna lay low for a while, especially because Jax out there is playing God. um,
A better God than his grandfather, that's for sure.
much better. Um, as time goes by, has your willingness to accept roles changed? Are you more selective in the characters that you'll play?
This is probably a mistake career-wise, but I'm not that selective because I like keeping the lights on and putting bread and onions on the table. So if somebody wants me to work, uh, I am grateful for the opportunity to ply my trade. So I tend to be much less choosy than others about that stuff. But plus I have an philosophical orientation to the world that is really outside the mainstream. And so if I were to simply obey those principles, I probably wouldn't work much at all because the culture doesn't necessarily reflect my notions of beauty or goodness or virtue.
Right.
And so maybe I have less integrity than a guy like Sidney Poitier, who was very aware of his position in the world and his status and his race and how the roles he took affected all of that. And
Right.
he never took a role that diminished him as a human being or made him someone not to look up to. I think he always took the hero's side, which is very laudable. I mean, he's somebody to look up to, but I couldn't afford to do that. So I have to make, I have to justify guys like Paul and Dexter, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
it would not be my preference. It wouldn't be my preference to play somebody as unheroic as that. I have to find the hero in a guy like that, and it's not very easy sometimes.
Right. But I mean, I the roles that I don't know. I guess for me, I I think that you choose roles that suit you well and that they test your abilities in different ways. Much like a rubber band ball. um, you're not just being stretched one way. You're constantly expanding from all sides, and I think that is a test of a true artist. So from your
Thank you.
time on the iconic, by the way, from your time on the iconic show Lost, how did you connect and develop that character of Jacob? Because for most people, Jacob or assume Jacob is God or a God-like figure. So we've spoken about that multiple times now, but in a sense, the God figure or the authoritative figure. How did you approach Jacob?
Well, I got one directorial hint from Jack Bender working in one of the first episodes. I think I was doing a flashback scene with the young Kate. And I did something, and he said, "That's it, Jesus the Carpenter." He didn't know it at the time, but that image, that idea, had a very deep impact on me because I was a Christian for a time in my life, and the idea of Jesus the carpenter, not Jesus the God, but the Jesus in the Gospel of Mark as opposed to the Gospel of John, that the not the ethereal being, but the brother, the son, who the rabbi, the teacher, that everybody could relate to. That was the image that moved me to Christianity, and accidentally, it was the image that Jack chose to describe Jacob. So that thought sort of guided me in every scene.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Lost, I mean, is still, in my opinion, the pinnacle for shows. Like it, it is. There's not a person I've ever met that doesn't know what Lost is. Um, you know, quick.
So,
This is
so I
this.
really quickly, I read the treatment for Lost. So when they were auditioning people for the pilot, I think I went up for the pilot. I don't remember which character I was supposed to play, but they gave me a 23-page treatment that was a flaming page turner. Like it was the most unbelievable thing I had ever read up to that point, and I knew that thing was going to be a killer hit. So,
Really.
oh yeah, it was amazing. So,
I mean, because most people talk about Game of Thrones and how everybody was at their house on their couch on Sunday night for Game of Thrones. But for
mm,
Lost, Lost achieved that years before that. Every single person I knew, I forget what night it aired, maybe Monday or no, was it Wednesday? I can't remember.
Lost. I don't remember what day.
I don't remember, but I think it changed a couple times. But Lost, every single person was always at their house watching Lost every single week, way before Game of Thrones. So I mean, Lost is still, still people debate the ending and they debate the philosophical aspects and all that kind of stuff from Lost. It's just an amazing show, and you've been a part of some of the most iconic projects to ever grace. Um, so I mean, does that make you smile? I mean, does that help you?
Yeah, it's great. It's a total accident, but I'm happy to be on the right side of fortune in those
Right,
cases,
right.
because it was not necessarily supposed to happen that I was supposed to audition for Lost. I almost didn't go to the audition because I had so many auditions that day, and I didn't want to screw it up because the scene was 7 pages long. It was heavy dialogue. I didn't want to go in there and do badly. And my wife said, "You don't understand. The show is so amazing. You have to go in and do this." And if it hadn't been for my wife urging me on to do it, I probably would have said I have to pass because I'm too busy. It ended up I ended up going in there and being on. It's just in the pocket, and I was fortunate for that. And
Imagine,
yeah,
imagine if you. I mean, I hope you wouldn't have kicked yourself in the ass about it if you had you not
sure,
had you
sure,
not done it. But like some something was at work there, because and we can call it, your wife's intuition about just knowing the thank God she knew what that show was, because if not, maybe some Joe Schmo number two would have played Jacob, and it wouldn't have been as good.
yeah. I mean, that's there's been a couple of times where I've had near misses in my life. For example, I was in the final stages of a callback for a role. Lou DeJima was casting it. He's since passed away, and Ridley Scott was directing the movie. And it was a fantastic audition that went on for about an hour. Ridley Scott is one of the most fascinating
Oh yeah.
people I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And I say work with because I also auditioned for GI Jane, and I got a part in that, but couldn't do it. But again, that was a long session with him, and he's just such an interesting human being to talk to, and of course, an iconic director. Anyway, I was in the final stages for that movie, and this little known actor named Brad Pitt got it, and it was Thelma and Louise, and it put him right over the top. And sometimes I think about that. If my life would have changed as profoundly as his life did, had I gotten that part, and I don't know, I don't know,
Damn.
yeah.
Well, we can't think about it that way. Yeah, we
He
can't think
was
about it
very
that
good.
way.
He was very good in the part, though, I have to say.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But I mean, Brad would have made Brad was gonna do what he was gonna do no matter what, whether it was that role or another one, and I think that you did what you wanted to do, and you became who I think you're I in my opinion, I think you're the best version of yourself. So you're not like what people, because when people think of an actor or a Hollywood actor, especially someone of your caliber, who they know, um, they think that you're going to be kind of, I hate to say the word stupid, but um, uh, distant
That's
and
appropriate. But this stupid is appropriate. I see many actors say stupid things, but it's not because they're it's not because they're stupid. It's because they've been trained to put their emotions ahead of their thinking
right,
and to use their emotions as a means of evaluating what's right and wrong and good and bad. And they come down a lot on the wrong side of history because they're using their emotions as a means of figuring out the world. So it's their training that's getting in the way more than anything, but it's also what makes them very spontaneous and interesting and good when they work. So um,
exactly.
give the
Yeah,
actors a little bit of a break. They're just functioning. It's a little superficial to just use your emotions to sort things out, but
yeah,
um, uh, they are what they are. I accept them for what they are.
yeah. But thank you again so much for doing this. And everyone at Springfield Comic Con is going to be super happy that that you joined me and that you took the time. Is there anything that is there anything that you would like or that you're working on now that you can talk about, or anything in the future that's coming up that you want to tell people about?
Well, we're starting season 2 of American Rust, so I'm really happy to go back to Pittsburgh
Yep.
and see where season 2 takes this little town.
And you're
And
gonna and you're gonna invite me to the set, right?
yeah, you can come to the set. Hopefully, the
All right.
COVID restrictions will be taken off, so it'll be more like
All
a
right.
set than
Yeah, yeah,
a place
yeah.
where everybody's sectioned off in groups and can't interact with each other. So
Right. And
that would be nice.
yeah, that would be great. I that's one of my favorite parts of, because I write for a website as well. So those set visits are the most fun thing in the world. Is
And
getting to
Pittsburgh
see.
is a great town. I don't. Have you been to Pittsburgh?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
it's a good town.
Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is so it's kind of like Massachusetts, where there are the cities, but then there are the outskirts and
Mhm.
the suburbs and all that kind of stuff. So I truly love it there. And yeah, so season two of by the way, if you haven't seen American Rust season one, you can check it out now. The link is in the description below. um, but Mark, thank you so much for joining me, and yeah, we will see you guys very soon.